Welcome to a football show Monday edition, NFL Combine Preview edition. That is Paul Kuharsky. I am Braden Gall, and we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and, of course, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. PaulKuharsky.com for good Titans coverage by a local reporter on the beat every day since, the 90s, Paul. How are you, sir?
1996. I'm well. Good to be with you. I was a little concerned about this episode. Then we just had a nice pre-episode meeting where we basically did the show, an abbreviated version. It's going to be excellent.
It's going to be excellent. You made fun of me for my choices of where I'm staying in Indianapolis, and I will make fun of you for being unable to execute a live stream video 2 weeks ago.
Oh, everything's fixed. Everything's fixed.
That's good to hear.
I had meetings with my technical staff, and we're ready to roll.
I forgot how large your staff is.
Oh, yeah. We called them all in.
Large and distinguished. All right.
By director, the VP, the director, the manager, and all the staff.
Which one is Simon?
This actually, I don't know that Simon would know how to do this. I'm sure he can figure it out. But
he just goes live on IG. That's just what they do at that age. They're on TikTok.
I don't know what he's up to. I just know it's not bad.
All right, so the Combine is here, and while this is live streaming currently, you are probably on an airplane somewhere, and I am on the road somewhere as we head to Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. It is my first trip to the NFL Combine. I'm very excited about this. I don't know sort of what to expect from an actual football knowledge from a prospect standpoint. Watching guys in the Underwear Olympics has never been my favorite thing, but I am excited to be around NFL executives, NFL personnel, scouts, agents, coaches, experts, and to pick brains and to gossip and get all the tea that we need to try to understand this draft class even more. Is that basically what happens at this event, Paul?
Well, I mean, for you, first there's the initiation, which can be pretty ugly for a first timer. So
I love shrimp cocktail.
You've got that to look forward to. It's a lot of things for a lot of different people. I don't know how deep. I mean, I think you're all of these people are. So and for me, it's more of a get to know you for a lot of these guys. The first day and a half are executives. So you can get a question into a lot of coaches and GMs at podiums to, in my case, build bigger stories that are broad and have a lot of voices in them, much to the annoyance of the beat people. But that's how it works. Some people, Titans, with the number one pick, will get questions about that. I don't know how many people are going to, some Kansas City people will come over and ask Borgonzi Kansas City related questions. Callahan probably won't be that popular, and he's speaking against Vrabel. Which is
NFL has such a great sense of humor.
Yeah, well, the NFL didn't time that up. Titans probably did. And then interviews with players are at night. So in terms of socializing with coaches, GM, scouts, etc., the people that you want to run into or the people that you might get to introduce yourself to, as long as you're both night owls and willing to be in packed bars that are super, super loud. You can strike some gold and you can swing and miss. I don't know. Everybody makes it like that. It's all gold for them. It's not been all gold for me. So I think people tend to puff up their success rates.
So you mentioned the Titans going. They'll be going on Tuesday. I'll get you a couple of names I want everybody to watch that I'm excited to watch from a personnel standpoint. Also, quarterbacks. Do people make too much of what they are or are not going to do? What are the important things that the quarterbacks are going to do? Players that are gaining momentum, maybe losing some momentum. We'll get to that. And of course, the trade, like right now, the Titans go into this in a very different situation, which is that every conversation the Titans have, not us in the media, is a valuable one for what they might be learning about the board or opportunities to make a trade or, figure out what free agent quarterbacks might be available, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get into all of that. Travis Hunter, is he going to work out? What position does he want to play? I think those are important questions. The folks that I was talking to, Matt Miller in Mobile, for example, just was like, man, we got to ask him what position he wants to play. Like those kinds of things. Not that it necessarily matters, but it is an important question to ask a player of his caliber. So lots of stuff to do on the show. Sinkers Beverages, of course, make sure you swing by. They're a great location in East Nashville, 4-time liquor store of the year. And, of course, you can sign up for the in-crowd. Great bourbon selection, one of the best bourbon selections in the city. And they put out those allocations at specific times. And the in-crowd members will have access to that stuff first. So if you're a collector or a drinker of bourbon like I am, make sure you swing by, sign up for the in-crowd at Sinkers Beverages. Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville as well. Over 50 years of serving the community. So make sure you go swing by and check out Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Make sure you sign up for their customer rewards program as well. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, less than 10 minutes from Nissan Stadium. And, of course, the official barbecue of the Houston Oilers. Open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. All right, what message do we expect to get from the Titans? Maybe I should ask this first, Paul. What message do you believe, if you had to sort of make it succinct, what do you think the message of the new Titans, a.k.a. Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, with a little bit of Brian Callahan, what message do you think they have given us in their first 2 months on the job as a combination? And then what message do you think there's going to be something different that we hear on Tuesday?
Well, I think the message has been we're hard at work, right? I mean, they've been in meetings, working long hours, getting ready for this and for pro days and for more. Haven't heard much from them, and you don't hear much from many people in the league during this stretch. I think tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, I mean, the headline's going to be Borgonzi's going to say we're open for business. We're call. This pick is we're not definitely making a pick at number one, and that'll be a huge headline everywhere, as if it's a great surprise, when all indications at his introductory press conference and in what Brinker had to say to the local press was exactly that. There's an annoyance level, from the locals, that when things that have been said locally get repeated at a bigger microphone, they're cast as new giant stories. Yep. When it just repetitive. So they'll say, well, he's saying it on February 25th, and him saying it on February 25th is makes it new news. And so that'll be the big headline tomorrow. Not just
new news.
Not just Nashville wise, but NFL wise. Probably the biggest story tomorrow will be Titans are open for business with the number one pick.
I just want him to step to the podium and say, DMs are open. Let's go. That's it. Just say that. I think Borgonzi said at his introductory press conference, I've already taken some call. Yeah. No, yes. And he's going to work tirelessly to find a quarterback. And, we need 30 picks over 3 years and 12 top 100 picks. To me, the message has been patience. I think the message to the fans, and I think this is smart because it's in contrast to the message Rand Carthon delivered. It's also in contrast to the message that the Predators, for example, delivered when they signed a bunch of players, and the fans are now upset that the fact that they raised expectations. I think they have intentionally lowered expectations. Gently. I don't think overtly, but gently. And I'm curious what part of the message is about patience and all that stuff tomorrow. Maybe nothing, but we shall see. Let's go with the trades here. Let's talk about that part of this, the communication. So it's not just us that are up there gossiping and hanging out and trying to do all this eavesdropping, but I'm curious about the actual team interactions. They all sit in designated sections in the stands, right, to watch what's going on, and they all have each other's cell phone numbers. They all know each other. They're all friends. They all have relationships, some closer than others. What are the odds that the beginnings of a trade could form this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good. I mean, it's easier to do things face to face than by text. And this is on one big level, NFL convention. People don't go to the Super Bowl. GMs aren't at the Super Bowl. They don't have business at the Super Bowl. They have business here. So here and at the owners' meetings is where they see their colleagues. And that's, in the hallways here, in booths that are side by side, which is what spurred the Titans Rams trade in 2016.
Well, tell that story for those that don't know before you go any further.
So John Robinson and Jeff Fisher and or Les Snead The Titans and the Rams were in booths that were side by side. They're kind of drawn randomly, and they're in suites at Lucas Oil Stadium. And so they were in side by side booths, and whatever, they step out of their booths, guys are hanging out, making phone calls, doing whatever they do, walking together or whatever. And that's where the Rams and the Titans began to talk about the trade that the Titans dropped from 1 to 16, and then eventually traded back up to 8. But that the seeds of that trade took place at Lucas Oil Stadium, near those booths. And so I pay attention every year to who the Titans are near in that setting.
I am shocked that matters. I mean, I guess I'm not, because it's relationships, right? But like, it seems odd to be like, well, the entire fortunes of two franchises might have happened because of a random drawing.
Well, I mean, it probably would have happened anyway, because the Rams were intent on getting up and taking Wentz or Goff. But they didn't have to seek out the Titans from afar, and some teams most teams are on one side of the stadium, but there's not enough room for everybody. So some are on the other side. So had they been on the other side, it would have taken more for them to seek out the Titans in that setting and have a conversation. And in this circumstance, it was easy for them.
But it's not crazy that you're going to pay attention to that. Like, you're going to notice who they're around.
I've paid attention every year since.
That's wild. I like that. That's cool. I like that. All right. So it's almost there's no chance that any official trade happens here. What about the rest? What about free agency? What about those kinds of trades that are not related to the draft pick? Is that something that's going on right now as well with these NFL teams?
Well, every agent, virtually every agent, I presume every agent is there. There's a big agent meeting that takes place during these 5 days or whatever. And the union has a big representation there that speaks to all these incoming prospects. It's part of their agenda, which we'll go over at some point during this pod. And so, these agents are there to start to talk to teams about their players. Hey, what about, about re-signing their own guys? You can see things start to heat up there after this, and to start to plant seeds about, hey, John is heading towards free agency, and I see you need a right tackle. What do you think about him? And you get some kind of indication, like red, yellow, green at least, and know if you should pursue there, or if you need to sell your guy, or if there's life to it.
And there's no way to legislate those communications. Like, they're friends. People have cell phones. How do you stop that stuff from happening?
No, and I don't know why you would want to. I mean,
right.
It's a process that starts, that you can't go too far with it. I don't think people go too far with it. I hate that the 2 days before free agency starts is called the legal tampering period. I think that's got far too much.
It's a very dumb phrase.
It's like pre-free agency.
Free agency. There you go.
Pre-agency. That's good. Let's get that rolling. And so this is like pre-agency.
That's well done. Okay. So what does a player go through? Well, I guess how about you want to stick with the agents here, because the agents, Senior Bowl, they're everywhere. Drew Rosenhaus just about ran me over. If he had hit me, he would have been the one.
Favorite people.
He would have been the one falling over, by the way. He's shorter than I expected. They're everywhere. They're doing the same stuff there with their prospects and trying to sell them already to folks before the process has even begun. What agent angle do you want to take me on here in terms of what they're trying to accomplish?
I mean, I hate the agent community, largely speaking. I think most people in roles like mine or look, when I worked at ESPN for 9 years, I wasn't really expected to, I didn't come right out and say it, but in terms of like big contract news or the kind of things that come from agents, they're like, well, you work with Schefter and Mortensen. They're going to get that stuff. Yeah. You react to that stuff. And you're basically not expected in beat roles at places like that to get anything from those guys. And those guys, 20 years ago, it was determined that those guys were only going to talk to big national guys. And it was, information exchange party with them. I'll give you this, you'll repeat it. And in exchange for that, I'll
let you know when I have real news.
Yeah, we'll communicate on bigger stuff. So I wouldn't recognize most of these guys. Some of them are occasionally helpful on smaller stuff, but I reach out to agents maybe 6 times a year. That's about the extent of it. So, there were days where, waiting outside this agent meeting and trying to find somebody to get some information was part of the deal. It's useless now, I think.
I just want to know
for me.
I just want to know what Nick Westbrook-Akine is worth on the open market. That's what I want to find out from the agent community this week. Who's going to sign Nick Westbrook-Akine? Okay, what about the
somebody's going to overpay him?
Yeah,
I would think, and that's a Titans problem. But then they're going to have to replace him. I'd propose like Josh Palmer would be like a reasonable Nick Westbrook-Akine replacement who's going to be a lot cheaper.
So let's talk players here, what their goals are, what their week is going to be like, and what they have to go through, and maybe what the Titans are trying to accomplish with some of these guys. Before I do, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, make sure you support our 2 great local and amazing sponsors. Go to paulkuharsky.com and sign up. Okay. We can just I want to get into Cam and Shedeur and Travis Hunter and some of the other decisions in just a second, and some of the players that I really like. But I want you to take us through what their week is like, because in Mobile, you go through this practice and it's like speed dating in like a conference room at a hotel, that the Senior Bowl then brings the players in, and you have 4, 5, 6 players at a table with your whole organization, and you're kind of like bouncing from guy to guy, and you're kind of doing the whole thing. What's the players' week like when they go to Indianapolis for an event like this? 329 of them.
It's all slotted out like this. So, that yellow column is the first column. It's place kickers, defensive linemen, and linebackers. So early player arrivals were Sunday. Today, Monday, register, pre-exam, orientation, team interviews. Tonight, they'll be talking with teams. Tuesday, general medical exams, pre-ordered studies, team interviews continue. So they're doing team interviews basically all week. Wednesday, orthopedic exams, media interviews, kicking workout, NFLPA meetings, team interviews. Thursday, measurements and on-field workouts are near the end of the week. Friday, bench press, broadcast interviews, and depart Indianapolis. And you see like everybody's shifts. So what those guys are doing the first day, the next group starts a day late, and the next group starts a day late, and the next group starts a day late. So everybody does the same thing. It's just a matter of when you start and when you finish, broken down by position groups. So defensive line and linebackers are first, DBs and tight ends are second, running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers are third, offensive linemen are last. And everybody goes through the same tedious process.
Do you have a sense of how many players the Tennessee Titans will speak with?
I think there's a number. I think it used to be 30 that you have the long conversations with, and then other you could have like unlimited short conversations outside of your room. I think that number may have moved off 30, and I don't remember what it is. Might have moved slightly up or slightly down. But I don't know.
And those long ones are like an hour, 30 minutes?
No, 15 minutes. 15 minutes
is all. Yeah. So the Tennessee Titans are supposed to get to know Shedeur Sanders Cam Ward for the first time. They're going to meet him for the first time, and they're going to sit down and talk with him for the first time. And they have 15 minutes to get to know him as tightly as they can.
Yes. And so all of these teams have strategies on how to do that, how to be most efficient with it, and all of that. Now, I've thought for a long time, I thought for a long time that was, insufficient. How much could you learn from that? I did 2 things, though, that changed my mind on that. Malcolm Gladwell I don't remember which book it was, had the concept of thin slicing, that your initial opinion is often right.
Is this tipping point?
Stuff. No,
it's not tipping point.
I don't think it's tipping.
All right, anyway, sorry.
I don't remember which one it was, but that your initial opinion is usually right. And I applied this to the combine, and I talked to a lot of people about it. And the person I remember most on this was Jim Washburn, the old defensive line coach. And I asked him how many times, and it was deep into his Titans career at this point, how many times was your opinion of a guy from the combine, did it turn out to be wrong? And he said once. He could remember once. Ryan Long, who the Titans drafted and who he came to love, he did not like at the combine.
Interesting. I think it was 60 interviews, and it was dropped to 45 for the pandemic year for COVID in 2020.
Okay.
And then I think it's back up to 60 15-minute interviews now, each of the 32 teams.
So I'm confusing the 30
in-home visits.
In-home visits. So 60 here, 30 in-home. That makes sense. My bad.
No, that makes that's still just not a lot of, like, 329 players are there. You're gonna have 256 drafted, ballpark, give or take.
Yeah.
And you've got to have good quality information for every tier of the draft and every slot. And you only get to talk to 60 players.
Well,
crazy.
Yeah. So you add it up, though. Maybe you've talked to some at the Senior Bowl, and so you won't talk to them here. Maybe you've talked to some at the Senior Bowl, and you're going to build on that here.
Yeah.
You have to strategize this whole thing. Maybe you'll talk to some, here, and you'll build on it at their pro day as you continue to fall in love with them. Maybe you won't talk to some here, and you'll talk to them at their pro day. And these things are all private, right?
Yep.
Except that, annoyingly, multiple reporters will ask multiple guys, have you talked to the Steelers? Have you talked to the Cardinals? Official or unofficial? Well, you're saying 60 is not a lot. 60 is a lot when you're asking every guy up there who he's talked to, and he's listing 15 teams or trying or saying, I don't remember. We should make a legitimate pact with all reporters not to waste their time up there, because putting together the puzzle pieces, so one guy's going to remember that he talked to the Titans, and another guy's not going to remember or say, I don't know, or not yet, or, maybe it's coming, but I don't know. And then you try to piece that together, and people put all kinds of meaning on it, despite the fact you tell them not to. And then all of a sudden they are interested in offensive lineman X, but they aren't interested in offensive lineman Y, when that doesn't hold water at all.
I want to talk Cam and Shedeur here, obviously, but so you said interview and then medical. Is that correct? That's what you said, Monday, Tuesday, basically. And you said,
the interviews go all,
right.
3 days. So you don't know if you're getting a medical before or after necessarily.
Did you say,
and the workouts aren't until after the interview.
Did you say requested medical evaluations?
There are some that are,
that's interesting to me. And I wonder what would this is just me kind of brainstorming here live on the show. I'm curious.
Pre-ordered studies. You have a general medical exam. You have a pre-ordered study. If you've had a knee problem, you're getting an MRI on your knee for sure.
So are there rules against, personally, it's 2025. I would say all evaluation of the human body counts. Now, I know the mental side versus the physical side versus, I get all of that. It's different for the NFL. Is that actually the case? Could you pre-order any kind of test you want? Psychological test, personality test? Can you do any of that stuff? Or is it just about a specific body part?
Medical.
Okay. I just want to make, it's 2025, PK. My wife would lump everything into medical. Therapy is medical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. But I think for the purposes of this, it would qualify as injury-related medical.
Copy that.
Injury history.
Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Support both those companies. I'm just going to say it every 10 minutes here. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders reports are at time of taping This is Monday morning. We're recording this. That Shedeur Sanders is not going to throw. I think this is interesting because there's
Ian Rappaport cut and pasted what Deion Sanders told him.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I read it.
Okay. So, but hypothetically, let's just go with the hypothetical here. So CJ Stroud threw a couple of years ago, incredibly impressive. I think that was, people talked about like how impressive they were when he threw the ball. Last year, of course, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, top 3 picks, top 3 quarterbacks, did not throw, wasn't a factor, wasn't a huge deal. My issue with Shedeur Sanders is that is the question. One of the questions about him. And if you go through if you think about this, the human side of this process, and I think you can apply this to all different players who decide not to do a thing this week in Indianapolis, which is you train for every one of these drills. Every one of these players is out working from the second they're done with their college career. They are training to get these drills correct, to do well at them. And if you decide, and your agent maybe urges you to decide not to do something, I think it is fair to say, why? Why don't you feel comfortable doing this? In particular, for a player who is trying to earn his way into the top pick in the draft or close to it, and that the question that kind of is lingering around him is, man, he doesn't have as good an arm as Cam Ward. That, to me, is a weird dynamic. Normally, I don't care if you do or don't run or you do or don't throw, but I do feel like there's this one, like he can go out there and prove to everybody that these questions aren't a thing. And he's choosing not to, which, again, Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't need to work out last year. Didn't work out at all. Not a problem. Does that mean anything to you, the dynamic around Shedeur Sanders possibly deciding not to throw the football on? I guess it's Saturday, right?
Yeah, I think so. One important thing to note when you're talking about his agent advising him is he does not have an agent. So who do we think is acting as his agent? Dad. In terms of his top advisor, it's Dad. Look, I see two sides of this, right? You're going to this combine at the request of the NFL. You're a top guy. You have no obligation to the league. I mean, odds are, if you're a top 10 pick, you have more of a chance to hurt yourself than to help yourself at these things.
Is he a top 10 pick?
I don't know. Probably. Because of quarterback desperation. On the other hand, teams and media would love to see guy come, no excuses, and say, "Hey, I'll take anything you throw at me, and I'm not worried about anything." And my skills will translate to this, and I understand that they understand that throwing to unfamiliar receivers, they score for that. Not everything's going to be perfect. And especially if it's me versus him and we're both doing it, then you could see how I adjust to unfamiliar circumstances and how he adjusts to unfamiliar circumstances. And there's value in that as a measurement in the whole body of stuff. But again, I think you got to lean towards this. You're not paying me to be here. I'm voluntarily coming for you to examine me. It's my stock, and I get to determine how I impact my stock. And so as much as I think it's a subject of conversation amongst us and amongst fans and everything, I think it's really just that. There's plenty of film. The film is the number one thing you get judged on. And this is really nothing. What it is mostly the NFL's TV show is a lesser product.
Yeah. Sanders, I will say this, though, around the Sanders conversation, which is that even in my own mind, and I think the rest of the media and the experts have kind of come along with this, is that they seemed and felt very even. I think even some people, myself included, might have said, I think I like Shedeur Sanders a little bit more at the start of this process, let's say mid-December, end of the football season. It's pretty clear that Cam Ward is ahead of Shedeur Sanders by almost every metric now, in general. I was looking at Dane Brugler's board just as an example, and he's got Cam Ward at 15. He's got Shedeur Sanders at 25. I've seen some where Cam Ward is 10 and Shedeur Sanders is in the 40s. Like I don't think it's close right now that Shedeur Sanders has taken a step back down the board. And now that, to your point, quarterback tax, he could certainly be a 7th pick or whatever. But if you're that guy, don't you view it as an opportunity? I think that's the other thing. Is Cam Ward clearly, by his comments last week, which I think if you're a Titans fan, you're ecstatic about those comments. You want a guy who's confident. And by all accounts, what I have learned about Cam Ward, the person, over years of playing college football, is that this is a guy who holds himself to an incredibly high standard and therefore is sort of okay holding everyone else around him to an incredibly high standard, which is a good trait and a good characteristic to have. And so I'll be curious to see, based on that information about his personality, what he decides to do. But if you're Shedeur, it does feel like there has been some separation here between the two. And if they were dead even, I would say don't throw. More likely you're going to hurt yourself than help yourself. Don't worry about it. But if the one area of concern is this one thing, and you maybe have fallen behind the guy that you're trying to compete with, pretty obviously, I don't know. It seems like an opportunity that you could take. That's all.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And also, if Cam's not doing it and you're doing it, all eyes are on you. You kind of steal the focus. You steal the event. And clearly he's saying, and a lot of guys do this, I'll take care of it at my pro day.
Yeah.
I control the environment there. I'm throwing to my guys. I'm on my field with my people. You're coming to me. I'm not coming to you. All of that. Thing is, I if I'm an agent, I'm thinking along the lines of maximizing my chances, right? What if you have a bad day on your pro day and then it was your one time, right?
Against air.
Why not have 2 days? Whereas if you have a bad day, you can offset the bad day with a second chance. Or if you have a really good day in Indianapolis, well, what you do at your pro day can't erase what you do in Indianapolis. So, and I've heard, scouting people say this, like, if you have 3 chances, take 3 chances. If you have 2 chances, take 2 chances. Why put it all on one chance?
I don't want to say the thing out loud, but I feel like it does need to be said. It's because he's just not that. He doesn't have that good of an arm. Like that's the thing nobody wants to say. And it's like, I don't want to hurt the young prospect from a chance to prove everybody wrong. And look, like people said that about Joe Burrow, right? Like Joe Burrow, can he throw in Cincinnati? Like there was questions about these guys that sometimes don't make sense in hindsight. So it's possible that this question about his arm doesn't make any sense. Like that he's good enough that it doesn't matter. But if you are, and I think measurements for both Hunter and Sanders are going to be critical this week, not just the medical stuff and the conversations. But if Shedeur Sanders is less than 6'1" and less than 200 pounds, that is a concern.
What do you think the odds are on that?
Probably low, but I've seen him listed at 6'1", 198. And generally, colleges overinflate your size. And so if he's under 200 pounds, that's like Lamar Jackson. I think a lot of people look at Lamar Jackson and go, man, he's so skinny. He's like 218. Like he's a thicker guy than you think. And Cam Ward's in the 220 range. We'll see what he weighs in at.
Right,
so we'll see.
But if Sanders is at 198 listed, which means he's 190, if he couldn't get 10 pounds on for the combine, that would be a real concern. I'd be really surprised if he wasn't 200.
Right. I think it's improbable, to your point of your question. I do think it's improbable, but
I think that's an important number.
It's fascinating. I agree. It's fascinating though, based on all the talk around these two quarterbacks not being, they'd be like anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 in last year's draft class, certainly behind Caleb and Jaden and Drake May. I think that's absolutely true. I have settled on Cam Ward ahead of Shedeur Sanders as the only one that I would consider if I'm a Titans personnel player in the top 10. I wouldn't even consider Shedeur Sanders in the top 10 right now. You're down at 12, you're down at 13, you're down at 15 or 18. Okay, fine. We can start talking. You've added a bunch of other picks. Why not take the risk on the player who's got a lot of talent? Sure, sounds great. But I just think he's got a lot to prove. So here's my last one on these two guys. The Titans come to you, and they say, Paul, we need you to sit in the room. We want you to ask 2 questions of each of these guys. You're famous for your softball questions.
Yes.
What are you asking? What do you want to know? Not from a reporter, but if you're on the team payroll, what do you want to know from these 2 guys in that interview process that has nothing to do with foot speed and 40 times? Top
of my head, what's the most important thing you want to do off the field in your rookie year?
Interesting.
That'll give
Okay.
me a little bit of a sense of commitment, distraction level. Are you going to a charity thing? Are you talking about a branding thing? I think there's potential for Sanders to go somewhere that I don't love.
Okay.
I don't have those concerns about Ward.
Agreed.
I think the other one would be more about kind of self-reflection on like what mechanically is your biggest issue. What have you worked on to try to fix it? What would you ask us to try to fix?
Yeah, about self-evaluation. I don't know what the right question is because I haven't thought about it either until I just asked this, but I'd like to know along those lines, like handling adversity. And I don't know what the right framing of it would be. It's not like, oh, how do you feel when you go home after a loss? Like that's not the right question, right? Like there has to be something smarter there to it. But along the lines of motivation, like what makes you happy? Like those kinds of things.
Winning.
And if they give a winning answer,
winning.
I know. So that's why I'm trying to like, what's the smarter way? Because like these NFL teams have done this now for decades, not these individuals.
And they've spent months crafting these questions.
Right. So I'm just curious what we think that is being asked of them, because I think we kind of have a good sense of what Cam Ward is and what Shedeur Sanders is. I don't think, no questions about the father are really that important, but Shedeur's probably going to get asked about, hey, how often are you going to talk to your dad? I don't know what the right question is.
Yeah.
But there's going to be something.
You don't know what the right question is. And no matter how you frame the question, he's got a scripted answer to it. Yeah. Now, how much can you get him to not give you scripted answers? That I think is the cat and mouse game here. I'm going to ask you stuff. You've been prepared for everything. I want to get you as far off script as I can to get some honesty. And that's what sucks about the whole thing. And that's probably the worst part about the 15 minutes.
Yeah, no question about that. All right, spend more than 15 minutes at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue because it's a great place to have a lunch or a meeting or a gathering. You got the best brisket in the city, American Black Hawk Farms Wagyu beef. Make sure you check that out. It eats like filet mignon. It's fantastic. Go eat some food there. And of course, Sinkers Beverages. Obviously, four-time liquor store of the year. Their sister store, Bluegrass Beverages, up in Hendersonville. Just shop at one of those two. You can Uber Eats and have Sinkers deliver the booze directly to your house while you're consuming and watching the Underwear Olympics this week. So I
just want to go one place that I touched on my pod last week about how disappointing it is sitting here in late February looking at this team when a year ago we said it's going to take 2 drafts and 2 off seasons for them to get this roster replenished, right? It's too much for them to do in 1 year. And now in February 24, we're sitting here saying the exact same thing. It's too much for them to do in 1 off season, right? And so I said very directly last week in my pod, if we're sitting in February 25 saying the same thing, the disease level of this team,
it's coming from inside the house.
Is really substantial, right? We cannot be, let's mark this, and we'll come back and play this clip in a year. If in a year we're saying they are 2 off seasons away from being able to fix all of these problems, then there's a certain hopelessness to the Tennessee Titans.
Well, and they surgically removed a part of that process when they got rid of Rand Carthon. They said this is the problem, pulled him out, and frankly put in like 2 or 3 guys into the mix and said the problem is now fixed. And Chad Breaker, of course, a part of both of them. So we'll see.
I don't know if they said the problem is now fixed. This is a question I'm going to take to Borgonzi tomorrow because I don't know that we got, and smartly by him, a direct answer on like how far away are you? Or, Rand foolishly said, we're not far away from winning. I don't think Borgonzi is going to say anything like that, but I don't know that we have a sense of how far he thinks they are from winning. I don't remember what he said there. I think maybe he said, first, we got to get a quarterback, maybe if I'm remembering correctly.
I think he used the
him.
word. I think he used the word patience.
Yeah.
I think I don't quote me on that, but I think he said something along the lines of, "It's gonna, we got to be patient because it's going to take some work." I'm paraphrasing. But
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's the gist I got from that opening day of that conversation from him. So, all right, do you want to jump into some players? Or how about Travis Hunter? Number one, if you ask him, if you're an NFL team and you ask him what position you want to play, and he says whichever one, does that affect your decision to draft him?
Don't care at all. Don't care at all.
I'm the same.
Here's a Travis Hunter question for you, and this is a very combine thing. What's Travis Hunter weigh? 175?
If he is 180, I think it will be a good day for him.
Well, I mean, do you want him to go through? I think his weight is his weight, right? So do you want him to have put on fake weight for the combine that somehow hits a number on the scale that is phony because he's then going to go back to what he is at what he plays? Whatever he weighs,
he's a wide receiver, Paul.
What he weighs, and he's not going to put on a ton of weight. I mean, I don't think you'd want. They might say, "Hey, you can put on 5 pounds," right? They're not going to ask him to do much more than that. So him hitting a number this week at the combine wouldn't be important to me as a personnel evaluator because I think his frame is his frame, and he carries what he carries. I don't see how him being 10 pounds heavier is going to benefit.
I think once you become a professional athlete and you're no longer in college dorm settings, even though the dorms have gotten very nice and swanky and, lots of chefs working for big time college programs now. And, you got the full body, studies and all the stuff. I get all that. It's still different when you are a paid professional millionaire. It's just different. And so I do think you can toughen up, tighten up, get stronger, get bulkier. But again, I think you're right. Like it's a 10-pound swing. Maybe, some players along the line of scrimmage can change dramatically, but not this guy. And ultimately, this is why I was talking to Matt Miller at the combine. It's on the YouTube page. Go listen to it. He said, I want to know what position he wants to play and how much does he weigh. I've scouted him in person, and he's no bigger than guys that weigh 180 pounds and 185 pounds at the most, and that is concerning if you want him to play, in particular, man coverage, which, oh, by the way, the Titans want their corners to play as long as Denard Wilson is the coordinator. And so if I am taking Travis Hunter, I'm with Nick Suss. As a fan and as a media member, I would love to see him try to do a thing we've never seen before, which is play it both ways. That's a great story. Do I think he's capable, and do I think that's what's best for the team? I have major doubts about that. I think he's a receiver because I think he's a good receiver right now, a very good receiver right now. He steps on the field. He makes your offense better right now. I don't know how much work it's going to take on defense or from the body standpoint to be a great corner. Maybe not much. I don't know. But I am one of the things I cannot wait to hear off the record from an eavesdropping standpoint is the consensus across the board on what position he should play in the NFL from NFL people.
I think that the Titans think that he's a corner. And I think that sometimes guy just doesn't fit the body type mold and can be excellent despite that. I think he's that kind of guy. I talked to Samari Roll about him, and he said once he is given the opportunity to focus strictly on learning corner and man-to-man corner, he'll be absolutely fine at it. He'll be great at it. And so I'm buying that line of thinking. And I think what position does he play? And Matt Miller knows this. What position do you want to play? He's going to say, I'm going to play wherever they put me. I'm going to be perfectly happy with it.
Maybe.
I think I can play both.
And Nick's whole point on this is that Travis Hunter has been a player who has decided to buck trends and go his own way every step of his career. When you're the number one player in the nation coming out of high school and you decide to go to Jackson State, you have already shown the world that you kind of don't care what everybody else thinks, that I'm willing to trust in myself, right? And I think that's a great trait to have. But if he's an elite corner, he's Sauce Gardner, he's whoever, Derek Stingley, whatever. Are you taking him? Do the Titans need a player at that position at number 3? He helps you in the other areas, trick plays on offense, punt return. But are you taking him at 3? I think he's a great player.
Definitely not taking him at 1. The Titans are anybody. I don't think you're taking a receiver / cornerback at 1 on positional value and league history. Could you take him at 3? I do feel like he's more of a consolation prize if Carter's gone than we get this guy or this guy and we're perfectly happy either way. I don't feel as much that way.
He is such a unique prospect relative to what we normally do at this period in this area of the draft. Like he is going to make your team better. Like this sounds kind of negative towards him, but that's not meant to be, not for me at least. Like he is going to make any team. He is going to be an NFL player for a while, and he's very good. We don't know what, and that's what makes him so interesting. I'm sure there's lots of NFL people that have been wrong about things that are going, I think he's this, or I think he's that. And to your point, sometimes guys prove experts wrong that make millions of dollars to do this stuff.
I am with Nick. I did hear some of that show, and he didn't, I don't think, make this connection, but I will, and he would have. He's anti this positionless player idea. Travis Hunter is the opposite of that. He's a two-position player, very defined positions, not this amorphous, like, I'm with Nick. Like, the guy has to line up somewhere. This idea of being a positionless player, well, that's great. But ultimately, when you get into formation, he is in fact lined up in a position.
So Nick Emenworry this is a great transition. So Nick Emenworry is the safety out of South Carolina. He is. I can't wait to see what he measures at, but he's probably going to be 6'2", 6'3", 225 pounds safety out of South Carolina. Titans are interested in safety, let's say, in the second round, maybe the third round. Well, who knows? I don't know, but it's a position they could be interested in.
Got a third round.
I hear you. I'm assuming they trade down, Paul.
Yeah, I know, but we have to say that because somebody immediately
right.
say, "Well, they don't have a third round."
It's true. This is what. So he's going to be a freak athlete at the combine. So he's going to move up boards. The question is, to Nick's point and to your point, which is he Jamal Adams, where he's not really a true safety? He doesn't play high point extremely well. You need him closer to the line of scrimmage, because his whole theory is that Nick's whole theory on that positionless thing is he hates Isaiah Simmons, who was the safety out of Clemson, who was like 6'4", 235, but played safety. These really kind of strange players. Kyle Hamilton's another one, right, for Baltimore.
Jeremiah Owasu, whatever.
Yes.
I was anti him as well.
I understand, though, a defensive coordinator seeing someone versatile, and this is where I think two players that Titans fans need to pay attention to. Jalen Carter out of Georgia, I think, is going to fly up boards. I think he's already doing it. So he's a guy that could be a top 6, top 8 pick. And so if you're picking there, you have an edge need for him, great. But he's like 6'2", 245. So, like, what exactly is he? Off ball? Is he edge? Is he Harold Landry? Is he somebody different than that? Is he TJ Watt? Like, I don't think we know, but I think you need to sort of know what he's going to be. I like explosiveness. Nolan Smith is another one of those guys. Came out of Georgia, fell down draft boards, extraordinarily explosive player at the combine. And number one prospect in America coming out of high school, had a great career at Georgia. The NFL didn't know what to do with him. Well, it turns out he's pretty good. So you can go kind of both directions with that positionless thing. The other one is Jaheed Campbell out of Alabama. This is a guy who's sort of right now in the 20s to 30s, and I think he's going to be top 15 by the end of the week. And it's because he's got this crazy explosive burst thing. But again, at 6'2", 6'3", 245, 250, is he a pure pass rusher? Is he a little off ball? Does Denard Wilson want somebody that can do a little bit of everything? Or is he like you guys, and he wants someone that sort of has a defined thing that he does great? And those are two names I would keep an eye on.
Here's my thing. Like, if you're talking like an edge that can play off ball, well, that's fine. But then what's that mean about the rest of your team? Like, when he's not at edge, who is at edge? When he's not off ball, who is off ball? You got to have some depth there to fill in around him. And if you're a team like the Titans, you don't have that, right? So if you're drafting him, you need him to be one of those things, I would say, because when he's not at edge, you don't have the guy to replace him at edge. And when he's not off ball, you don't have the guy to replace him at off ball. So if he's playing two positions, you're weak at the other positions that he's not playing. And I'd rather fill one of those positions and know I've got a guy at that position. Now, if I'm a stacked defense, if I'm Philadelphia, I could bring in that guy and I got all the people to mix and match and do all of those things. So then it's more attractive. Now, if we're talking about off-ball linebacker / safety, all I want to know is, can the guy cover or not? because it's a game about can you cover or not. To me, first and foremost, if I'm watching a guy who's lost in coverage, I don't want him. So I don't care how great he is at coming up, and because that means he's one-dimensional, and I don't want one-dimensional guys. I want two-dimensional guys. So I don't need two positions. I need two dimensions.
All right, there we go. So I think this is what's interesting, and maybe it's semantics, but I do think I'm sort of settling on this, which is I think let's go with Campbell, for example. Let's say they trade down, or Carter, because both of those guys could be available either third for Carter or sixth or seventh if they trade down. But also if they move down to like 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever, Campbell could be an option at that position. I think you do have to decide, especially if you're drafting them in those spots, that they're going to be an edge player. But what the versatility provides you is you've settled on the position. He is this. He is an edge rusher.
Then you can hop him around some.
But you move him around, right? You're
fine.
like Harold Landry would drop into coverage
Sure.
around the goal line, right? A lot of times around the goal line, you drop him into coverage and he would make plays in the end zone on passing situations. I agree with that. So I think it's worth noting that it's not that you don't use him in both ways, but that he's got to come in and kind of settle into a single
primary.
Position. And I think that is the right way to look at it. But it doesn't mean that the skill set isn't valuable, because those two guys are very similar. They're going to be a little undersized for pass rushers, but they're going to be a little oversized and a little tight for off-ball linebacker. I think they're both pass rushers. But I've seen a lot of college players who are very good at that size not work in the NFL. You have to be special from a twitchiness standpoint. Like Nolan Smith had extreme juice. Extreme juice is what the scouts are saying about him when he came out of college. I think he was in the 4.3s in the 40, the shuttle times, the 3-cone drill, all this, like extraordinarily explosive. If you're going to be 235 pounds and be an edge player, you got to have something else that makes you special. And I think Carter and Campbell are the two that I'm watching, because it's Jalen Carter, not Abdul Carter. If Abdul Carter is number one, and we're going to try to figure out what we think about Mykel Williams out of Georgia, which is another name to watch. I think Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart out of A&M are two more that are going to be important to watch. I think James Pierce is sort of out of the conversation at this point from Tennessee. But you got there's so many edge players. And so Jalen Carter and Jaheed Campbell are the two that I'm like, if you are truly dynamic, explosive guys at the edge in this week, and we see the metrics that tell us that, I'm okay with the size being a little less than, because I think we've seen guys that have done it and are successful recently, especially in the modern NFL where it's all about space anyway.
Well, these numbers plug into RAS, and RAS, I think is not as important anywhere as it is at edge rusher. It's been proven over time. You need the athleticism at edge, and that's why top edges are pretty important. And the Titans have completely dismissed that for the bulk of their existence.
I want to see fluidity and sort of comfort from guys. Like if you're a big receiver, Savion Williams, if you're these two edge rushers, you want to see twitchiness. And now there's some that's medical, right? Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, offensive lineman, could be the top player on the offensive line in this class. What does his medicals look like? That's the most important thing for him. So I think there's a lot about like, how do you sort of handle the back and forth movements, the twitchy movements, and the fluidity. That's what I want to see out of a lot of these guys. Offensive line, pass rusher, receiver, all these guys. So I'm interested. I'm excited to go. I'm excited to see it all. And, to your point, your first impression, your initial impression, which is based on the tape, is almost always going to be right in this case, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think the combine's overrated in terms of what it does to people's boards generally, unless you do something stupid and get overwhelmed by Chris Henry.
We talked about him on Thursday.
Yeah, I heard. And when you get overwhelmed by Chris Henry, you kill yourself.
Do you want to know who this year's Chris Henry is? I'll go ahead and call it right now.
Go ahead.
Because he made a really good play in Mobile, and I was like, oh, look, he caught the ball. Anais Smith out of Georgia. There's a chance he's the fastest player at the combine. He's going to go full Xavier Worthy, and he could run something insane, like a 4.29, right? He does not catch the football. All through his college career, he does not catch the football. He's open, and he doesn't catch the football. If I'm a Packers or a Titans, I don't want to get caught up in the 40 time of a player who is very fast and doesn't catch the football. I think Anais Smith is the danger warning sign here from a combine workout guy, which I do think since Chris Henry we've gotten better at as a league. I think the league has gotten better at not going Troy Williamson and Darius Hayward-Bay and these guys that just go great 40 times and then fly up draft boards.
You should hope. We would hope. There's the Eagles lineman who's a famous poster boy. I can't remember his
Jordan Davis.
No, years ago, who just blew up the combine, and he's another symbol for trouble. Got way more attention than Chris Henry. But everybody's pretty much set here, and you make modest adjustments if somebody surpasses your expectations or underperforms based on your expectations.
Yep.
And the medicals are the biggest thing. It's not sexy, but that's really what this event is about first and foremost.
So Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, paulkarski.com for good Titans content. You just won't ever stay in an Airbnb? Is that
this is a defining line for sports writers, really.
Yeah, it is.
Marriott points. I mean, you're gonna take your wife to Europe someday.
I already have.
All right. Well, you're gonna do it again, right? Or on a safari or on something.
We were looking at flights last night, actually.
How are you paying for that?
Like the hotel?
Cash money?
We pay cash for the plane tickets, and then we use our credit card points for free hotels.
Credit card points.
Yeah.
Well, you know how you double and triple your credit card points? You have a credit card that's a Marriott credit card, then you stay at Marriott's, then boo,
and spend twice as much money?
You can spend any money.
But you're spending twice as much as I am to go on this trip.
Look, you're staying at a cockroach-infested place that you know nothing about. Bed bugs, and who knows?
Yes, hotel rooms famously clean.
Yeah, Marriott's are.
No, look, I'm not hating on staying in hotels. We went to London last June, but I stayed at a historic hotel called the Hotel Montague, right there next to the British Museum. Very cool, special old hotel. Then we stayed in one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was over in Notting Hill for 3 nights. Also super cool and nice. We like boutique hotels, and through my bank's credit card, we collect points over a year, and then we use them, and we never spend any money on hotels. We pay for airfare because the bank will not help you with the airfare that gets changed, so you just got to go to British Airways for that. But we went to England and did not pay a penny for our hotel.
Titanium, platinum, elite, lifetime. I am a big deal with Marriott. Big.
Well, you've been on the beat a long time. That's the difference. I travel 3 or 4 times a year for work.
Big.
You're traveling for 3 or 4 times in October.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Silly takes care of me, and I will take care of Marriott. This is an unsponsored segment. Stay at Marriott Properties. This Airbnb. Silly.
Hey,
I need to live in East Nashville.
I also needed a second bedroom too. I wanted 2 bedrooms. I got to take care of JT.
Get 2 rooms.
I got to take care of JT.
Yeah, take care of him. I'm all for him being taken care of.
Oh man,
at a Marriott. You know why all these Airbnbs are open?
So old
because everybody's staying at a Marriott.
That's fine. I'm not a part of the long-time traveling NFL press corps. This is my first time.
There you go.
Be gentle. Be gentle.
Yeah, be gentle. That inauguration is tough.
Oh, I'm just now hearing about this. I'm just now hearing about this.
Yeah, well, plan on being taped to a goalpost.
Oh, great. Tremendous.
Overnight.
All right. For Paul.
Waterboarded.
Will I be indoors at least if I'm waterboarded?
With bourbon.
Ooh, yikes. Okay. I'd like to conduct business the week that I'm there. So, all right. For PK, I am Braden. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Of course, safe travels to you, my guy, up there. We'll see you up there on Monday night. Everybody, please thumbs up, notifications turned on, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. You guys know the whole drill. Otherwise, we appreciate all your time. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back all week. We got the Hot Read podcast. Nick's going to be up there. We got a football show coming, all kinds of stuff for you guys. So stay tuned to the 440 Sports YouTube page and to paulkarski.com. Thanks for hanging out. We will talk to you next time.